Hello and welcome to another video. It's Lily Paddock here, and today I wanted to talk about my encounter with a second stranger who told me that they were part of the ARG. It's going to be a bit of a story time, so you might as well settle down with some, like, a cup of tea and a snack, because there's a fair amount to kind of go through. This is part of my efforts to document everything that has been happening to me, honestly and transparently. There are going to be quite a few very meaty videos coming with more details, some that you will find impossible to believe, and I know that already, and I'm totally prepared for people not to believe me, but ultimately everything I'm going to tell you is true, and I hope that people will believe me and try and figure this out with me, because doing this on my own has been a nightmare. But anyway, I met this stranger when I was out on a walk. Now, the place that I was walking was very remote, definitely no cameras around, and I didn't tell anyone that was where I was going. This may seem like information that is not that important, but the fact that I met this stranger here in this really remote area was crazy, because there was no way they could have known that I was going to be turning up there. So my working theory is that they geolocated me via my phone, because that seems to be the only thing that makes sense. But anyway, the stranger was really transparent about things, and they just said, hey, I am here to brief you as part of the ARG. And I was like, okay. And we both found a nearby bench and sat down, and he proceeded to tell me a load of stuff. The first thing they said when I sat down was, before you ask, I can't answer all of your questions. However, I can shed a little bit of light on what is happening and why. They then proceeded to tell me that I'd been doing an excellent job, that everything that had been happening was really difficult and tailor-made to break me, and that I had been surviving far better than they had ever expected. I immediately interrupted them and asked them who they were, and they said that they weren't able to tell me. I asked why all this was happening to me, and he responded by saying that I'd been chosen, which I laughed, and the guy's face did not change. He just looked incredibly serious, and I sort of didn't really know what to say. But he told me that it was a malicious and horrible game that had captured a load of people, just as the other stranger that I'd met had said. He even confirmed that that guy was what he called a rogue agent, so wasn't someone that was meant to be giving me instructions, but decided to reach out and help. And he implied that that stranger's fate was probably not good, which was terrifying. But yes, he said it was a horrible process that trapped souls in misery forever. And I tried to kind of draw out why exactly that was the case, but they wouldn't say very much. They would just insistent that I was the one who had been given the power to break the cycle and free people from this game forever, to be the last person who ever played the game. And I really didn't know what to say. They said that there was a purpose to everything that I was going through, and that I would one day understand why it had to be this way. It was as informative as it was frustrating. He said it was a game that repeated over and over again, trapping hearts and minds forever in a horrible landscape where people lived in misery for the rest of their life. So it was some serious stuff, apparently. So it's probably not that surprising that I was struggling and depressed and thought I was going crazy. So the task that you seemed to be giving me was so vast and just insane that I just asked him, like, why me? And he said, why not you? Which really irritated me, to be honest. But he insisted that everything had been set up perfectly for me to do the job, and that it was only me who could do it. Like, that things had been set up specifically for me. And that I could see it as a God-given task, for example. I don't believe in God, but I guess that was the best way he knew how to explain it. This was also crazy, and so there was so much pressure that I asked what would happen if I refused to take on this role, because, as I told you all in the last video, I'd received a threat from the game masters saying that my brother and my lives would be at risk if I did this. And the guy just looked at me sagely and said, well, it's your choice what you do. And he said that if I decided to just play the game as everyone else had, that I would have a price to pay, and he wouldn't elaborate on that, but that eventually everything would go back to normal and I'd just live my life as normal. But he really pleaded with me to carry on the path that I have been on, of telling people about the game and trying to figure out what's going on, because it would help people in the future. They basically told me that what was going on was greater than just one life, and that my sacrifice was worth it for the rest of the world to be in a better place, I guess. And he then told me that I would be protected, and I asked him how, and he kind of looked at me as if to say, I can't tell you that, but he insisted that I would be. Again, this was as much cryptic as it was helpful. So, it's also ludicrous. He proceeded to say that the world would help lead me down a rabbit hole, and that all I needed to do to get through this process was to do what I do best, which is theorising. So I didn't really know what to say. And then they went silent for a minute, and I thought they were about to launch into another explanation, but they actually surprised me by standing up and saying that it was time for them to go. And I was like, what the hell? Like, you've barely told me anything. And I basically pleaded with them not to leave and said that I had so many more questions and I needed their help. And they said that this was all they were allowed to tell me at this point. And I said, okay, well, what do I do if I need more instructions? And this, still can't believe that this is what they said, but they just literally said, pray. I almost cried and I almost laughed because it was such a ludicrous answer. But anyway, that was the last thing they said to me before they hurried off, and I was left with more questions than answers. Because apparently I'm a chosen one, designed, like, with a path designed to save a load of people that I don't know. Yeah, to say that everything's been a complete mind screw is an understatement. The whole thing was freaky from beginning to end, and I still don't know what to think of it all. If it wasn't for the fact that they'd found me in such a remote place, and they, like, I might have doubted. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether to believe anything that was said or not, because misinformation was supposed to be a big part of this game, and it feels like this could just be flavor text, and nothing makes sense. But anyway, I've told you about this now, so maybe you'll find some stuff in there that makes a bit more sense. I don't know. I really I wish I could explain everything better than I am, but that was it. That was everything that I was told. And it just seems to have made my situation even more complicated. But I'm doing what they asked and I'm talking about it. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully with time I'll understand more. Or it will just turn out to be a massive troll and I will feel vindicated for not believing in all of this stuff that all of this nonsense that I've been fed. Maybe I have a God-given task to do. Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video here. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any thoughts, of course, post them in the comments. Like I said, the next few videos are going to be full of information that you won't believe. But hopefully, like, you can work with me on this and we'll figure stuff out. But anyway, thank you very much for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!